Alright guys, we have the driver's side door now up on the table and ready to start assembly. I should mention that I did do the passenger side door as a practice run just to make sure I had everything fitting correctly. So based off of that, we'll do the driver's door together. So we're going to start by gluing on this door pull. So these are I'm not sure if they're the original pulls or a replacement one, but they are not new. So I've just gone ahead and cleaned these up as best as I could and removed as much of the old adhesive as I could. And we are just about to apply adhesive to the mating surfaces before we stick this on the top of the door. This is the first step. So in order to do that, I'm just using this Latch heavy duty spray adhesive, or if you prefer brush on, you can actually use the same sort of thing, but in more of a contact cement. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Again, I should mention right off the top, there's more than one way to do this. So this is the way I do it. So it may not necessarily be the correct way or the way that you do it, but this is the way that works for me. All right, let's get busy. We'll glue that top on. All right, the glue is set. So we are just about to add their top capping carefully. Alright, that top pull is in place, as you can see, and now is the time to decide if you're going to add any sound deadening to the inside of the door. It'd be a good time to do it now. So I have some fat mat here. You could use Dynamat or Acoustimat or something similar, Hush mat. I'm going to add some sound deadening in here. There is some factory sound deadening in here, but there's not much of it left. You can sort of see it there. So we're just going to add some additional. And we're going to be careful not to cover up any of the openings that need to remain open, like the rivet holes for the chrome trim strip or the door handles, for example. We'll avoid those areas, but we'll do some sound deadening on the rest of the areas that we think that might need it. Also, be careful not to close your drain holes on the bottom of the door. If you're getting close to the bottom, you might want to avoid that. Do not close your drain holes down. Alright, the extra sound deadening is in, so we're going to move on to the next step. Now the next step for me is to put the side door channels in, and that's going to be kind of a temporary measure just to get them fitted up, because I like to slide the glass in through the top into the channels. We'll end up having to undo those later and sort of laying the channels down inside so we can lay the glass a little bit flatter in the door to enable the mechanism to slide in on top of the glass. So you'll see what I mean when I get to that point. So anyway, for the next step is going to be to assemble the side door glass guides, which are these guys here. These are the Velcro lined tracks, I guess you can call them. We're going to assemble these into the doors and slide the glass in. We'll come back when we get ready to do that. Now, the front side of the door, there's 3 locations where that track mounts up. One location here, one location here, and then one at the top on the inside here. So these top locations, they use a slightly shorter bolt, and the side locations use a slightly longer bolt, and they all have these what they're called shake-proof washers on them, which are the star style washers. They look like this. So we'll attach those 3 points. So I can help to visualize how these pieces actually go in the door. So we're looking at the rear side of the door now. So this piece here at the top, this guide piece I'm going to call it, is at the top. So the track will look something like this when it's installed. So you see we've got a fixing point here. That fixing point matches with this point here. Then if I flip this, you'll see that there's 2 mounting points on the bottom side. So this track will be like this. So I'm going to look for those locations, and they are here and there. I don't know if you can see those 2 points, one there, one there. Those will pick up these locations. So we'll go ahead and mount this. The window tracks are now installed just finger tight. You can see them in there and in here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get the glass and we're going to slide it in through, obviously, the opening at the top down onto the tracks. Now, the reason that the glass has to go in is that the seals need to go on next. The glass has to be in before you put the seals on, I've learned the hard way. I've actually put the seals on, then tried to fit the glass in, and it will not go in. So glass first, seals next. So we're going to work on that now. All right, so the glass is now sitting in its tracks on both sides. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to loosen the tracks, and we're going to lay the tracks flat with the glass on the inside shell of the door, and we're going to push the door down as far as we can. The reason we need to do that is we need to get some clearance here at the top of this glass piece. So this glass has got to go in further so we can get the clips on the seals that need to go here on the top. So that's why we want the door glass to go down as far as it can. Okay, we've dropped the door glass down and pulled it down as far as we can go. It's still in the tracks. The tracks have just been dropped inside the door. So you can see at the top now we have no more glass interference issues to get those seal clips on there. So we're going to add those seals now and get them out of the way. Worst job on a Triumph TR there is in the world, in my opinion. I hate these clips. Alright, I got the big guns out to help me with these seals. So Les is going to help by holding up the door while I try to get these seals in place. Here's the tool that we use to pull up on that, basically. It is a pain, so it's good to be able to have somebody holding the door up while I pull up. So we're going to be careful not to pull off the door pull or scratch the paint, etc. The glass is low enough that you're not going to scratch it. That's why I've dropped the glass as low as it'll go. So we'll do our best to get these seals in and not swear. Right?
Need Vaseline?
And Les has made a good point, actually. He's being very positive tonight, and he said, thank God it's not a four-door. All right, welcome back to the garage. Now Saturday morning, just after 8 a.m., and I did manage to get the fuzzy seal installed last night. You'll see the yellow bits of tape, and it's just a good idea to mark out the locations where you actually have placed those clips. So where the tape is, and I think one of the yellow pieces fell off, but there's a clip there as well. So just to demark where the clips are, so you can put the tool right on the actual clip, because once you lay the seal in, you're not going to be able to pull it out to see where the clips are. So just a good idea there, a little tip to get you centered on the clips when you're ready to pull them up and into place. So the fuzzy seal is in place. We're going to now work on the outside seal, which should be a little bit easier, because as mentioned, I think previously, the previous owner modified this door to actually drill holes to use small screws to hold the outer seal in. So we're going to add that. All right, here's the old outer waste seal, and as you can see, there are holes drilled in the bottom of this. If you flip it over, you can see where the actual clips are supposed to go, where the previous owner has drilled holes in to use small screws that I have here. Normally these would be affixed with this type of clip, and there's another tool that you would use to apply this clip. It's a magnetic tool. So this was the tool that we used to secure the fuzzy seal clips. It's got kind of a notch cut into the back of it to account for the little tab on those other type of clips here. So there's the little tab I'm talking about. So this little tab would fit in the slot here on the tool and sort of just drop in like that. So that's the one tool for the fuzzy seal clips. Then if I go through my junk over here, here is the other tool that you would use for the outer waste seal clips. So again, just a specialty tool. This is magnetic, so it's supposed to hold the clip in place. That goes down on the bottom of the tool, so it holds the clip in place while you pull up on it and push down on the seal at the same time to affix that to the metal piece of the car. So again, I find this very difficult. The screws that I used on the passenger side door actually worked out very well. They don't interfere with the glass, and they affix the seal perfectly. So in my mind, this is a good fix if you are doing a restoration on a car and you can get the holes drilled. So it would probably be a little bit better if I had a little sort of a flattened head screw. These are a little bit domed. It'd be nicer if they're a little flatter, and just a straight cross screwdriver versus these are a Robertson screwdriver. I think the ones that came out were a Phillips screwdriver head. So anyway, that's just semantics. Anyway, we'll go ahead and we will put on the new, and I've already drilled the holes for it. Here's the new seal. we'll go ahead and apply that to the driver's side door. Before I go on, while I'm here, one of my viewers asked me on my previous video how the glass was affixed to the channel. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this, but there is a glazing strip. There's a rubber glazing strip, and it's just a pressure fit. So you need to knock this on like with a wooden or a rubber mallet, and it will stay there pretty tightly. Some guys have used a little bit of RTV or some sort of adhesive in there as well, but I find if you need to exchange those out, as long as you have the correct size rubber glazing strip, then that will stay on there pretty securely. I've heard reports though that there are glazing strips that do not work, that are too thin, so hopefully you'll be able to find the right strip. So that's affixed to the bottom of the glass, and then that gets affixed to the crank mechanism. We'll get there eventually. All right, here are the corresponding holes that are drilled in the metal piece for that outer trim strip. I think you can probably just see them there. So we're going to make sure we align those. Sometimes this strip will need to be trimmed, as it usually comes a little bit too long. I've actually trimmed this already. I've trimmed about a 1/4 inch off the end just with a pair of metal shears. You can probably see it here where I've trimmed that. So we'll go ahead and we'll make sure the holes are aligned. We'll get our small screws and our Robertson screwdriver, and we'll affix the outer seal. A quick note on the outer seal. I've actually seen this seal installed the incorrect way, and hopefully we'll do it the correct way today. So I have seen this seal installed this way, so it looks like it sort of protects the paint on the outside. So the long edge, basically, people have installed it this way, okay? So obviously utilizing the wrong side trim or seal. So that is not the correct way, but you can actually install it that way if you're not paying attention to the little slot cutouts on the back side for those clips. So just be mindful of that it can be installed the wrong way. The correct way is to install it this way with the seal or the lip sort of pointing up towards the glass. So it sort of scrapes the glass as the glass moves upwards. So this is the way you would install it. There is a little lip here on the edge of the seal that will just ride on the edge or the lip of the door when you push this in. So it'll be installed like that. Hopefully that's clear. So anyway, we'll go ahead and we'll screw this in. We'll come back with a final look. That top door seal has been installed. You can see the screws there. And that seal looks good. So we'll move on now to the next step, which will be to start laying in the mechanism to do the window wind up. All right, the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to lay in a couple of towels just on the glass. Since I have the tinted glass, I don't want to ruin that. It's probably not a bad idea if you just have factory glass in here anyway to keep it from scratching, because the mechanism is going to have to slide in here and up over to this location here. So we'll do the best we can without scratching the actual tint on the windows or scratching the glass. All right, here is the window winding mechanism, also known as the window regulator, and I've just laid it on top of where it's going to be once it's fitting underneath of the panel. So the best thing to do, or best practice to do now first before you go any further, is to probably give this a little bit of lithium grease here on the inside of the gearwork, because you won't be able to really reach this afterwards. So we're just going to hit this with a bit of grease. We're going to give it a bit of a cleanup. We'll grease it in all the pivoting points, and then we'll slide it in underneath. And be careful, like I'd mentioned, about not scratching the glass. I have it in the fully down position, as I'm going to try to mate it up with these tracks on the bottom. So there are the tracks on the bottom. On the bottom of this mechanism, there are two rollers. You can see them here, one here and one here, and they have to go within slots on the track to be able to fit in. Hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, we'll give this a quick coat of lithium, and we're going to grease that track down there as well with the rollers while we're at it, and not try to make too much of a mess. We'll be right back. All right, here we go. It's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle to get this in. We're going to try it from the top, and again, just be really careful, work slowly. so we have the regulator fastened with one fastener very loosely just to lift it a little bit off the glass. So what we're going to do now is we're going to raise the tracks on the sides to bring the window up and be able to slide it out the top opening at the same time. You're going to find that the glass is below the opening and it won't come up forward anymore until you actually lift it up towards the opening. So we'll lift up the glass tracks and we'll secure those loosely, and then we'll start working back on the mechanism. Alright, just back from downloading the camera, and we've tightened the fasteners up just loosely, and we're just checking the window operation, and it's working as it should. It is a little bit tighter than normal with the new felts, but it does go up and down as it should. It'll take a little bit of time to wear that new felt in, but that's good. I'd rather have it a little bit too tight than too loose and rattling around. So, okay, we're going to move on to the next step, which is adding some more of the door internals, and I think we'll start with the glass rest on the bottom. We'll have a little discussion about that. Alright guys, we're going to talk about a couple of optional pieces in my mind. The first optional piece is what we call the tie bar on the bottom, which is this piece here that apparently ties the bottom of the tracks together and keeps them from moving outwards, I assume. This is attached to the door glass rest. We're going to be utilizing the door glass rest, but to be honest with you, these tie rods don't really make too much sense in my mind. I eliminated them when I did my TR6 restoration 14 years ago and haven't regretted that. So we're not going to be using the tie rods in this TR250 restoration project. The other thing that I'm not going to be doing, and again you can do this if you wish, is the actual water shield on the interior of the doors. So just taking a step backwards, if you wanted to install the water shield, you would have had to have installed this when you're adding the bottom glass channel with the glazing strip. You can see the old remnants of the water shield here. Now the water shield moved up and down with the glass, and it was a shield basically between the exterior panel and the interior of the glass, I guess from a moisture barrier perspective. So I am not going to be reinstalling that. I don't see a value in that either. In today's world, maybe back in the day when this was a daily driver, that could have been valuable, but in today's world I am not going to be installing the water shield, as this car will see probably very little rain. It will be driven in the rain, it will be driven in all types of weather, but I don't see the value of the water shield in today's age. So we're not going to be installing that, but again, if you wanted to install the water shield, go for it. Alright, so the door rest glass piece installs down here, just underneath here, and it's got two fasteners that go in it. So we'll just fasten that there. And then what we'll do is we'll just put the door glass down all the way. This is slotted, so you can move it up and down based on where the door glass bottoms out, to provide a rest for the glass. So we'll just get this. Alright, so we'll just bring the window down all the way. about there. And then we'll tighten that down. Alright, the next item we're going to install is called the door glass stop or limiter. So it's this piece here. So this piece fits, I think you can probably see it. Let's try to zoom in a little bit. Those two holes there. So it goes this direction, so the little tang part goes in. There's also a little sort of crease in the piece, and that actually matches the body line or the line in the door. So we've got our little small fasteners here ready for that. So we'll just put this in. This is adjustable, so it adjusts the height of the glass when you're winding it up and down. So if you need to adjust how far your glass rolls up, then you can play with this doohickey, and again it's slotted, so you can slide it in and out of the slots to change the height of your glass. This is kind of valuable if you have a hard top, for example, and you need to bring the glass up a little bit higher, and that's what you can use. I have seen a couple guys add a little piece of tubing to the end of that little little stick out piece, I guess in order to sort of cushion it a little bit when it hits the limit. Just going to downsize the washer on this guy. Again, we can adjust this once we get this on the door on the car. We can adjust this before we put the door panel on. We're going to need to see how we do as far as the glass alignment is concerned to the windscreen. And obviously, once we get the Surrey top buttoned up and the fabric Surrey top piece and the hard top, we're going to make sure that the glass matches up with both those items as well. So that is installed, and we'll move on to the next item on the list. Alright, the next thing we're going to install is the door latch on the end of the door. So a door latch or door catch, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of counterintuitive. You think that the Y goes up, but it actually goes down. Okay, this little tab here on the bottom and this little bar is actually what hooks up to your lock that comes through the face of the door. We'll talk about a little bit more about that later. So that pin basically goes in this location down here. So when you're putting this in, you've got to kind of guide that in first and then twist it as it's kind of a rolling motion to put this in. And you also need to align these pieces here. So this tab is up and it'll actually go through the slot in the door. So something like this. So you can start your pin in the bottom, move this up, kind of roll it, and then it just should fit in there. Alright, we'll let that sit for a second. We'll get our fasteners. So I've got aftermarket fasteners here, but you can use obviously the correct Triumph fasteners. I have tapped out these holes, so these should go in fairly easily. All right, we'll tighten those down and we'll come back. All right, the next step is to affix the remote. So the remote actually operates the door to open and close it. First thing I want to do though is, from the factory these had a piece of felt here on the inner door structure to keep this rod here from rattling against the inner door. So I'm going to glue this little piece of foam on here first, and then we'll come back and we'll go through the installation of the remote itself. All right, the end of the remote rod here has a bit of a spring on it with a little hook, and there's an opening there for a receiver on the door latch side. You can see them there. So the round up opening obviously goes over that post there, and the hook for the spring fits in that opening there. Those are affixed by this washer and this little spring clip here. So don't lose those little spring clips when you're disassembling these, or you'll have to find another alternative. I don't think that part is available from the various vendors I looked at. It's a no longer stocked item, so don't lose it if you can. Just a quick look of that washer and spring clip fitted, and how the spring fits in the slot here on the rear. So now we'll go ahead and we'll fasten the remote up here. There are 3 locations where it needs to be fastened. They're captive nuts on the inside and small fasteners, so we'll go ahead and we'll attach that now. I don't think I mentioned it, but lithium grease again on the rear mechanism and on the pivot points is suggested here. All right, we're just going to check for operation of the remote. I've just got the window winder handle on here for testing. So it does work as it should. So you can see the mechanism working back there to pull the latch. So that's good. So pretty much all of the door internals are installed. We still need to install the lock mechanism, the handle, and the mirror, but that's something we're going to do when it's on the car. We do have access with the window all the way up to be able to get to those areas, so that's good. The only thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to attach the hinges and get those ready to go back on the car, so we'll go ahead and do that now. Alright, door hinges are now installed on the door themselves, and hopefully we'll get these installed on the car later this evening. I think Alin's going to swing by around 7 p.m. tonight and give me a hand to get these on the car. Obviously we're going to be concerned about paint scratching tonight, so we're going to do a lot of taping in order to make that be a little less stressful on the both of us. I know Alin has some concerns about scratching things up, but we'll do the best we can, and if we scratch something we'll just touch it up. So that's it for now, guys. So that is the door reassembly project.